Hey there, audio friends. Welcome back to the channel. MrAyrit here, and today we got a little bit interesting headphone. I never heard of this company before. It's Ezretich, I think is how I'm saying it properly, and we've got their Thalia headphone here. They offered to send this to me, so but they're not, asking for me to say anything specific about these headphones. I've had them for quite a while now. Got to try them several different times for long periods of time, and I think I'm ready to give some impressions of them. Now, I almost didn't film this review, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, because this headphone they're listing, the retail price is like £600 for this thing, and I'm just going to be right up front with you and say that I don't think they're worth anywhere near that, and I'm sorry to Ezretich for saying that, but it's how I feel. I'll go through why that is, and I'll talk about what I do like about these headphones, but I'll also mention quite a few things that I feel like could be improved in future models of these headphones. So let's start off. We'll look at accessories, build, and things like that, and then we'll of course get into sound here. So accessories is kind of interesting here. You've got the basic stuff. So you got a cable. It's 3.5. That's a good thing, right? Dual 3.5, so you can swap cables. The cable's pretty thin, and is nothing real spectacular. I would say it's pretty comparable to like some cheaper cables that I bought from AliExpress and things like that. So not super impressed with the cable. It's not horrible. It just doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. It's pretty thin. Like it's more like an IEM cable, I would say. So we'll set that aside here. And it comes with a little kind of velvet pouch thing, which is fine. That's all good. But interestingly enough, it comes with a CD as well, which I assume is just maybe a collection of songs that like this company appreciates, or the owner of this company appreciates. I don't really know. If I'm being perfectly honest, this might sound kind of sad. I don't have like a convenient way to play CDs anymore. None of my computers have CD drives. None of my gaming consoles have DVD drives. So I just don't really even have a way to play this thing without hooking up like external drives and things like that. So I didn't even give it a listen, but I think it's cool that they included it. But then, yeah, let's nothing real crazy with accessories, except for the CD is a little bit unique. And I kind of wish I would have been able to listen to it, but sorry, I couldn't. Okay, so let's look at the headphones here. Now, build is kind of interesting because there's some things that I really like about the build of this headphone, and there's some things that I just hate about it, if I'm being perfectly honest. So let's start with pros. The cups are a really interesting material. So it seems like it's some type of maybe like an epoxy or something. And I know they have different versions, like some of it's wood, like, so if you look at their website, they've got like a whole bunch, and I'll put some on the screen here, but they've got a whole bunch of different options here. I assume this is one of the default ones. It doesn't seem like wood to me, but I suppose it's possible that it could be wood with just a bunch of coating on it. It feels very sturdy, and I do in general like the material of the cups. Although I would say the finishing on it is not superb. Like you can see some nicks and dents and things kind of along there. So it's not like perfectly made or anything like that, but it's an interesting, indifferent material that I think is pretty cool. I also like the metal grills. I think look really nice. And then I like all the hardware. So it looks like a very serviceable headphone as far as being able to like remove different things and take stuff apart. You can see like the slides here are like metal knobs that you can turn and things like that, and then all these screws are Allen key screws, so all that stuff should be really adjustable, and it should be a really easy headphone to like take apart and service and things like that if that should ever need to be done. So I like all kind of the hardware of this thing, where I feel like, and it's all metal, like so it feels tough, but the headband I don't love. I mean, it's like a spring steel, and it just, I mean, if you just look at it, it just looks off, doesn't it? Like it just, I don't know, it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. It's not like it's gonna break, but it just doesn't feel super high quality, the headband piece of it. It does have a little bit of padding on the bottom of it, which I appreciate. And then we'll get on to my like biggest gripe, which is the pads. And I mean, these pads are, I mean, look at these little things. Like, it is an on-ear, which I'm not a big fan of on-ear headphones anyway, but for a 600-pound headphone, you know, which is going to be $600+, I mean, these feel like the cheapest. Like, these are like pads that would come on like a pair of like $10 costs headphones. I just don't, I guess I just don't understand why they wouldn't have gone with something more comfortable, more premium feeling. I think a lot of why I dislike them could be even just boiled down to the pads, period. And it was just initially just a really poor, they just don't feel good on the head. I mean, they're not super uncomfortable, but they just don't feel good. And like a $600 headphone should feel pretty good, I think, when you're wearing it. So, you know, that's probably my biggest gripe. I mean, the pads, I'm sure you could probably replace them here. Again, everything is pretty replaceable. You look at the driver in here, they talk about it's got, you know, a 40 millimeter, 32 ohm driver in here, some type of metallic coating on it, obviously. So again, all kind of the hardware stuff besides the pads all feels pretty good, but, yeah, those pads are bad. So definitely that'd be one area that I would recommend that they really take a look at and think about how they could incorporate something that might be a little more comfortable, or maybe include a few sets of pads that people could look at, things like that. Okay, that's probably enough about the build here. Let's get into sound. And again, this is where I feel like it really falls short for $600. I mean, if you just think of some of the headphones that this thing is competing with, right? Focal Lex, Ananda. I've got an Ether CX I bought for $600. There's a bunch of DCA stuff that falls in there. You've got the Sennheiser 660s, Bayer Dynamics higher end stuff. There's just so many different headphones that you can get for $600 that are pretty phenomenal, honestly. And these just are not. I mean, if I was to guess, if you were to hand me these headphones, I would to look at them, like put them on, listen to them, I would guess that maybe they'd be $200 headphones. The sound is just, it's a really dark sound. It actually reminds me probably quite a bit of the Meze 99s is the sound, which I wasn't a huge fan of that headphone, but just a lot of bass. The bass is fine. It sounds okay. There's just too much of it, in my opinion. The mids seemed really pulled back to me, and the highs are just really rolled off. I mean, there's some detail and resolution there, but it doesn't, like, the frequency response is just so off for me that I couldn't really appreciate what I was listening to. And I gave these I came back to these over and over again to give them new chances with new gear and things like that, so many times. And I just never really enjoyed the experience of listening to them. It's not terrible, but it just, again, for $600, it just isn't competing, in my opinion. One thing that I felt really was not impressive with these headphones is soundstage. I mean, they are open back headphones, but they sound closed in though. They don't have an open, airy feeling, and I think that's due to frequency response. Again, the highs are pulled back so much that you don't get a lot of spatial information, I didn't feel like, when I was listening to these. So I mean, they just don't compete, is what it comes down to. I hate to bash a headphone, especially for a company that maybe doesn't have that many of them out, and maybe it's just getting started. But I wanted to put this video out because I've seen some people asking about them on forums and things like that, and I think it needs to be out there. Some reviews need to be out there of them. I can appreciate that it's a very difficult thing to build a headphone that can be produced and shipped worldwide, and that you can make a profit on. And I do like a lot of these build qualities of this thing. I do like, but it just doesn't compete for comfort. It doesn't compete for sound. I think it's an interesting first attempt. I'd be very curious to see what they would do with their next headphone. But the Thalia here, I don't see any way I can recommend it for £600. Again, I would $200, maybe I'd go for it and give it a shot. But I think, you know, if you think of like Grados that this would be competing with, if you think of the Sennheiser stuff that this would be competing with, if you think of Bayer stuff that it'd be competing with, even at $200, I think I've got other options that I would rather have. So thanks Ezretich for sending this out. I'm sorry to not give you probably as positive review as you were hoping for, but hopefully you can take some of that feedback and next time around you can maybe come a little bit closer to the mark. Or maybe I'm way off. I don't know. Have you heard these headphones? Maybe more people have heard them than I thought, and maybe more people like them. But I haven't seen a lot about them, and I think there's lots of other headphones that they're competing with at $600 and even less that I would choose over them. So I always appreciate being able to try new headphones from new brands. I hope Ezretich will send me stuff in the future if they get a new model out. I certainly won't hold this against them, but again, I think there's some work to be done moving forward. So thank you for your time. If you appreciate honest audio reviews with honest opinions and genuine opinions, consider subscribing to the channel, because that's really what I'm all about here. And I also try to approach things from a value-minded perspective. So if any of that sounds good to you, consider subscribing, like the video, hang around, comment, get engaged a little bit, and I'd certainly love to see you in future videos. So thank you for your time. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one.